Welcome to a journey into the shadows, a story that begins in the deep echoes of time and whispers through the darkest hours of the night. We are about to enter the world of the owl, a creature of exquisite design and profound mystery, a silent hunter that has haunted the forests and mythologies of our world for millions of years. This is the story of their ancient origins, their incredible evolution, and the perfection of their predatory prowess. It is a tale of survival, adaptation, and the enduring power of a lineage that mastered the darkness. Before we travel back to a world emerging from cataclysm, I'd love to know where this story is reaching you. Take a moment to write in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's always a wonder to think about how these stories connect us across continents and time zones. And if you enjoy these journeys into the natural world, please consider subscribing to the channel. That way, you'll be the first to know when our next story takes flight. Now let us begin. Our story starts not in a forest, but in the smoldering aftermath of an apocalypse. 66 million years ago, a catastrophic impact event drew a final fiery curtain across the Cretaceous period, ending the long reign of the dinosaurs. The world fell into a twilight state, a period of devastation and recovery where the survivors of the Great Extinction inherited a planet scrubbed clean of its former masters. In this new world, this Paleocene epoch, life began to experiment. With the colossal reptilian predators gone, thousands of ecological niches lay vacant, open for the taking. It was a time of opportunity for the small, the resilient, and the adaptable. Among the creatures stirring in this strange new world were the ancestors of modern birds, survivors who had weathered the storm. And from this stock, a new kind of predator began to take shape, one destined to conquer the night. The very first whispers of the owl lineage are faint, recorded only in the scattered and fossilized bones that have survived the immense pressure of geological time. The title of the oldest known owl belongs to a creature named Ogygoptincus wetmorei. Its remains, a single, sturdy tarsometatarsus, a bone from the lower leg, were unearthed from the soil of Colorado, dating back to the late Paleocene, roughly 60 million years ago. Though just a fragment, this bone tells a fascinating story. It was robust, suggesting a bird of considerable strength, and its features were a curious mosaic, hinting at a link between the two great families of owls we know today, the Titanidae, or barn owls, and the Strigidae, the typical owls. Ogygoptincus was not quite one or the other. It was a proto-strigid, a foundational blueprint. It walked the recovering forests of a North America that was warm, humid, and subtropical, a far cry from the continent we know today. It likely hunted small, primitive mammals that were just beginning to diversify in the absence of dinosaurs. This ancient owl was a pioneer, an early draft of the nocturnal hunter, its existence proving that the owlish form was one of nature's very first successful experiments in avian predation after the reset button had been pressed on global life. Across the primordial Atlantic Ocean, in what would one day become Europe, another giant was stirring in the Paleocene twilight. In the fissure fillings of Walbeck, Germany, and the rich fossil beds near Reims, France, paleontologists have uncovered the remains of Bearwarnis. This was no small experimental owl. Bearwarnis was a titan, standing as tall as a modern Eurasian eagle owl, one of the largest owls alive today. Its powerful leg bones tell of a formidable predator that likely dominated the nocturnal landscape of Paleocene Europe. At this time, the continents were still drifting, and Europe was an archipelago of islands separated by shallow seas. The climate was lush and tropical, supporting dense forests. In this environment, Bearwarnis would have been an apex predator of the night, its great forward-staring eyes peering from the canopy, its silent wings carrying it over the forest floor to snatch the unwary mammals and reptiles below. The existence of such a large and specialized owl so early in the Cenozoic era, a mere 5 to 7 million years after the dinosaurs vanished, is a testament to the rapid evolutionary radiation that took place. Owls were not a hesitant, gradual development. They exploded onto the scene, quickly establishing themselves as masters of the nocturnal realm. These early forms, like Ogygoptynx and Bearwarnis, belonged to extinct families, such as the Sophiornithidae. They were the first drafts, the groundbreaking models upon which tens of millions of years of refinement would be built. As the Paleocene gave way to the Eocene epoch around 56 million years ago, the planet experienced a period of intense global warming. Palm trees grew as far north as the Arctic Circle, and the world was a hothouse of biodiversity. This was the golden age for the early owls. An entire family, known as the Protostrigidae, flourished and spread across the globe. Fossils of protostrigids like Eostrix and Minerva have been found in North America, Europe, and for the first time, in Asia. Their distribution across the northern hemisphere shows that by the Eocene, owls were already a widespread and successful group. Minerva, named after the Roman goddess of wisdom so often associated with owls, was a particularly long-legged owl from North America, suggesting it may have been more terrestrial, perhaps hunting on the ground in the dense Eocene forests. Some of these Eocene owls were unlike anything alive today. One remarkable fossil discovered in Wyoming, named Primoptynx, revealed a creature with hawk-like feet. Unlike the zygodactyl feet of modern owls, where 2 toes point forward and 2 point back for a powerful grip, Primoptynx had talons more akin to an accipiter, a hawk. This suggests it may have used its feet to kill its prey by piercing and crushing, much like a hawk does, rather than simply grasping. This discovery reveals that the evolutionary path of owls was not a straight line. There was a period of experimentation, a branching out of different body plans and hunting strategies, before nature settled on the form that has proven so successful for the last 50 million years. These ancient owls were the trailblazers, the first to develop the key traits that would define their order, strigiforms. They established a foothold in the darkness, a domain largely uncontested by other avian predators, most of whom operated in the light of day. They were the silent vanguard, spreading across the continents, adapting to changing climates and ecosystems, and laying the biological groundwork for the more than 200 species of owl that would eventually follow. Their bones, buried for eons, are the opening chapter in this grand narrative, a story of an ancient lineage that first opened its eyes in a world reborn, and in the profound silence of the night, found its kingdom. From these ancient beginnings, from the shadowy forests of the Paleocene and the global greenhouse of the Eocene, the story of the owl becomes one of internal architecture. The success of this enduring lineage is not merely a tale of survival, but one of profound and exquisite biological engineering. Over tens of millions of years, evolution honed the owl's body into one of the most specialized predatory forms on the planet. To understand the owl is to understand a living, breathing marvel of anatomical adaptation, a creature whose every feather, bone, and nerve is fine-tuned for a single purpose: to hunt in absolute sensory dominance of the night. The most iconic and perhaps most awe-inspiring of these adaptations is the gift of silent flight. Most birds, even those as large as a goose or an eagle, betray their presence with the sound of their passage, a flapping, a whistling, a rush of air displaced by powerful wing beats. But an owl, even one with a 5-foot wingspan, can glide inches above your head without you ever knowing it was there. This ghostly silence is not magic. It is a masterpiece of aerodynamics woven into the very structure of their feathers. The secret lies in a unique 3-part system. First, the leading edge of the owl's primary flight feathers is lined with a stiff, comb-like serration. As the wing strokes downwards, these tiny projections break up the turbulence, the chaotic rush of air over the wing, into smaller, smoother microturbulences. This prevents the loud, whooshing sound that is characteristic of other birds' flight. Second, the trailing edge of the same feathers is equipped with a soft, flexible fringe, resembling the tattered edge of a worn piece of cloth. This fringe effectively muffles the sound of the air flowing off the back of the wing, dampening any remaining noise. Finally, the entire surface of the owl's wings and even its legs are covered in a dense, velvety pile, a soft down that absorbs the high-frequency sounds produced by the feathers rubbing against each other during flight. This combination of serrated leading edge, fringed trailing edge, and sound-absorbing surfaces creates an acoustic stealth technology that is the envy of aeronautical engineers. This silence serves a dual purpose. Primarily, it allows the owl to approach its prey without detection. A mouse or a vole, whose life depends on its keen sense of hearing, is oblivious to the descending angel of death until the very last fraction of a second. But just as importantly, the silence allows the owl to listen while it flies. By eliminating the sound of its own movement, the owl can focus its entire auditory attention on the world below, tracking the faintest rustle of leaves or the squeak of a rodent from hundreds of feet away. This ability to listen is tied to the owl's second great adaptation, its extraordinary sense of hearing, which is arguably more critical to its hunting success than its famous eyesight. An owl's head is, in essence, a highly sensitive acoustic receiver. The flat, disc-like shape of its face, so reminiscent of a satellite dish, is no accident. This facial disc is formed by a ruff of stiff, dense feathers that act as a parabolic sound collector, gathering and funneling faint sounds toward the ear openings, which are hidden at the edges of the disc. This system can increase sound pressure at the ear canal by up to 20 decibels, allowing the owl to perceive sounds 10 times fainter than a human can. But the true genius of the owl's auditory system lies in its asymmetry. In many nocturnal species, such as the barn owl or the great gray owl, the ear openings are not symmetrical on the skull. One ear is positioned slightly higher than the other. This subtle difference in vertical placement means that sound from a single source will reach one ear a fraction of a second before the other, and at a slightly different intensity. The owl's brain is wired to process these infinitesimal time and volume differences with staggering precision. The horizontal discrepancy allows the owl to pinpoint the sound's location on a left-to-right axis, while the vertical asymmetry allows it to determine the sound's elevation. By triangulating these inputs in real time, the owl creates a precise, three-dimensional mental map of the auditory landscape. It can locate the exact position of a mouse hidden beneath a foot of snow, relying on sound alone. It is a form of biological sonar, so accurate that in complete darkness, an owl can strike its prey with unerring accuracy. The final piece of the predatory puzzle is the owl's legendary vision. An owl's eyes are not spherical, like our own. They are elongated, tube-shaped structures held rigidly in place within the skull by bony rings called sclerotic rings. This tubular shape acts like a telephoto lens, providing tremendous light-gathering capability and magnifying the image of their target. The retina of an owl's eye is packed almost exclusively with rods, the photoreceptor cells responsible for vision in low-light conditions, giving them a sensitivity to light far beyond human capacity. However, this specialization comes with trade-offs. Their eyes possess very few cones, the cells that detect color, meaning owls see the world in a muted palette of monochrome shades. Furthermore, because their eyes are fixed in their sockets, an owl cannot glance from side to side. To compensate, it has evolved a famously flexible neck. An owl can rotate its head up to 270 degrees in either direction and almost 90 degrees vertically, allowing it to scan its surroundings without moving its body. This incredible range of motion is made possible by a series of physiological adaptations. An owl has 14 neck vertebrae, twice as many as a human, providing more pivot points. Its vertebral arteries, which supply blood to the brain, pass through channels in these vertebrae that are 10 times wider than the arteries themselves, giving them plenty of slack to avoid being pinched or severed during extreme head rotations. It also has a system of backup blood vessels that ensure the brain remains supplied with oxygen even if the primary arteries are temporarily constricted. This combination of fixed, light-gathering eyes and a hyper-flexible neck gives the owl its iconic, unnerving stare, a gaze that seems to see not just into the darkness, but through it. And when sight and sound have pinpointed the target, the final act is carried out by the owl's formidable weaponry, its beak and talons. The beak is short, sharp, and curved downwards, perfect for tearing flesh, but also designed not to obstruct the owl's field of view or interfere with the sound waves traveling to its ears. The real instruments of the kill, however, are the talons. An owl's feet are zygodactyl, with 2 toes facing forward and 2 facing backward, a configuration that provides an exceptionally powerful, vice-like grip. When an owl strikes, its talons pierce the prey, and the force of the impact often kills it instantly. The strength of this grip is immense. A great horned owl can sever the spine of a rabbit with a single clench. Together, these anatomical marvels, the silent wings, the 3-dimensional hearing, the telescopic eyes, and the lethal talons, compose the symphony of the owl. Each instrument is perfectly tuned, playing its part in a nightly drama of survival. They are not simply birds that happen to be awake at night. They are creatures sculpted by the darkness itself, a living testament to the relentless, refining power of evolution. The perfected blueprint of the owl, forged in the deep time after the dinosaurs and refined into a masterpiece of sensory predation, was not a singular creation destined for one landscape. It was a versatile and brilliant foundation, a set of master plans from which nature would build an astonishing variety of forms, each exquisitely adapted to its own corner of the world. The order Strigiformes is a living tapestry, woven across every continent save for the frozen heart of Antarctica. To truly know the owl, we must now embark on a journey, leaving the abstract realm of anatomy and flying out into the vast, wild places of the earth to witness this diversity firsthand. Our journey begins in the stark, unforgiving beauty of the high Arctic, a realm of sweeping tundra and biting winds. Here, against a canvas of snow and ice, lives one of the most striking and powerful owls on the planet, the snowy owl, Bubo scandiacus. Their plumage is a direct reflection of their environment. Adult males can be almost pure, immaculate white, while females and younger birds are flecked and barred with black, providing perfect camouflage against the patchy, snow-dusted ground. Unlike most of their kin, snowy owls are largely diurnal, forced by the 24-hour daylight of the Arctic summer to hunt at all hours. They are patient hunters, often perching for hours on a low hummock or rock, their golden eyes scanning the vast emptiness for the slightest movement. Their lives are inextricably tied to the population cycles of their primary prey, lemmings. In years when the lemming population booms, snowy owls thrive, raising large broods of chicks. But when the lemming numbers crash, as they do cyclically, the owls become nomads. They undertake great eruptions, flying thousands of miles south into southern Canada, the United States, and even Europe and Asia, appearing like ghosts in unfamiliar fields and coastal marshes, a sudden, startling reminder of the harsh realities that govern life in the far north. Venturing south from the open tundra into the great boreal forests, the taiga that encircles the globe, we enter the domain of a different kind of ghost, the great gray owl, Strix nebulosa. This is an owl of immense presence, while much of its size is an illusion created by its incredibly dense, fluffy plumage, an essential adaptation for insulation in frigid winters. It is the longest owl in North America and possesses the largest facial disc of any raptor. This enormous, satellite dish-like face is the key to its survival. The great gray owl is a specialist hunter of voles and other small rodents, and it locates them almost entirely by sound. It can fly low over a snowfield and, hearing the faint chewing or scurrying of a vole moving in a tunnel 2 feet beneath the surface, will abruptly hover and then plunge feet first with tremendous force, punching through the crusty snow to snatch its hidden meal. This act, known as snow plunging, is a feat of auditory precision that few other predators can match. Its call is a deep, booming woo, a low-frequency sound that carries for miles through the dense coniferous forest, a profound and somber voice that embodies the wild, untamed spirit of the northern woods. As we move further south into the temperate woodlands and varied landscapes of Eurasia and North America, we meet the true titans of the owl world. In the Old World, from the rocky coasts of Spain to the forests of Siberia, reigns the Eurasian eagle owl, Bubo. This is one of the largest and most powerful owls on Earth, a formidable apex predator with a wingspan that can exceed 6 feet. With its prominent ear tufts, deep orange eyes, and sheer bulk, it is an awe-inspiring sight. Its diet is staggeringly diverse. It will take anything from beetles and frogs to prey as large as foxes, young deer, and other birds of prey. In North America, its ecological equivalent is the great horned owl, Bubo virginianus, often called the tiger of the sky, instantly recognizable by its long feather tufts or horns, its intense yellow eyes, and its deep, stuttering hoot. The great horned owl is the quintessential owl of the American wilderness. It is a generalist of incredible adaptability, found in everything from dense forests and deserts to city parks. Its power is legendary, capable of snatching up skunks. It is one of the few predators undeterred by their spray, rabbits, and even domestic cats. Both of these great owls represent the pinnacle of predatory might within the family, rulers of the night wherever they are found. Yet, living alongside these giants, often in the very same territories, is a more delicate and widespread owl, one that has tied its destiny closely to our own, the barn owl, Tyto alba. Belonging to the separate family Titonidae, the barn owl is distinguished by its lack of ear tufts and its beautiful, heart-shaped white facial disc. It is the most widely distributed owl species, found on every continent except Antarctica. For centuries, barn owls have found shelter in human structures, barns, church steeples, and old buildings, forming a symbiotic relationship with farmers by preying relentlessly on the rodents that would otherwise consume their grain. Their ghostly white appearance and their terrifying rasping screech of a call so unlike the soft hoots of other owls, have made them subjects of fear and superstition in many cultures, yet their utility to agriculture is undeniable. Our journey now takes us to the sun-scorched landscapes of the American Southwest, where the environment demands a different set of adaptations. Here, in the shelter of the giant saguaro cactus, lives the smallest owl in the world, the elf owl, Microthene whitneyi. Barely larger than a sparrow, this tiny predator weighs a mere 40 grams. It doesn't excavate its own nests, but instead occupies abandoned woodpecker cavities in cacti or trees. At dusk, its small face appears at the entrance of its hole, and as darkness falls, it emerges to hunt. Its prey is not rabbits or mice, but insects and arthropods, moths, beetles, crickets, and scorpions, which it often de-stings with its beak before consuming. Its call is not a hoot, but a high-pitched, yapping whistle, a sound that adds to the chorus of the desert night. The elf owl is a marvel of miniaturization, proving that the owl blueprint can be scaled down to fit even the most delicate of ecological niches. A fellow resident of these arid and open lands is the burrowing owl, Athene cunicularia. Breaking all owl conventions, this species is largely terrestrial. With its long, stilt-like legs, it lives underground in burrows, often those dug by prairie dogs or ground squirrels. It is active during the day and night, standing sentinel at its burrow entrance or hunting for insects and small vertebrates on the ground, bobbing its head comically as it assesses its surroundings. From the frozen Arctic to the burning desert, the owl has found a way. But perhaps nowhere is its diversity more vibrantly expressed than in the dense, humid, and layered world of the planet's tropical rainforests. In the neotropics of Central and South America, the spectacled owl, Pulsatrix perspicillata, stares out from the gloom. It is a large, powerful owl with a striking pattern of dark and light feathers on its head that gives it the appearance of wearing white spectacles. It patrols the forest canopy, preying on a variety of mammals, including sloths and porcupines. In the riverine forests of sub-Saharan Africa, another specialist demonstrates the family's adaptability. Pell's fishing owl, Scotopelia paley, is a massive, ear-tuftless owl that has forgone rodents in favor of an aquatic diet. It hunts from a perch overlooking a river, its keen eyes watching for the ripple of a fish near the surface. When it spots its prey, it swoops down, skimming the water and snatching the fish with its large, powerful talons, which are covered in sharp spicules on the undersides for gripping slippery scales. This global family, from the snow-plunging great gray to the insect-sipping elf owl, from the mighty eagle owl to the fish-catching Pells, showcases the incredible plasticity of a single, brilliant idea. They are a testament to millions of years of evolution, a global tapestry of silent hunters, each one a unique and perfect expression of what it means to be an owl. As the owl spread across the globe, adapting its physical form to every imaginable habitat, it also flew into the landscape of the human mind. For as long as we have been telling stories around the fire, the owl has been a silent observer, a creature whose very nature seems designed to provoke wonder and fear. Its life in the darkness, its soundless flight, its unblinking, forward-facing stare so unnervingly human, and its array of strange, ethereal calls have made it a powerful and enduring symbol in cultures worldwide. But unlike the eagle, so often a straightforward symbol of power, or the dove, a near universal emblem of peace, the owl is a creature of profound duality. It is a vessel for our most contradictory beliefs, seen by some as the embodiment of sagely wisdom and by others as a chilling harbinger of death and despair. This fascinating split in our perception has its deepest roots in the classical world, in the starkly different ways the creature was viewed by the ancient Greeks and their Roman successors. For the ancient Greeks, and particularly for the citizens of Athens, the owl was a creature of reverence. It was the sacred animal companion of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, handicraft, and strategic warfare. The specific species associated with her was the little owl, Athene noctua, a small common owl whose scientific name forever links it to the goddess. These owls were believed to nest in great numbers on the Acropolis, the high hill overlooking Athens where the Parthenon, Athena's grandest temple, was built. The owl's traits were seen as a reflection of the goddess's virtues. Its large, luminous eyes were thought to symbolize the ability to see through the darkness of ignorance. Its nocturnal watchfulness was equated with the thoughtful, serene pursuit of knowledge. It was a creature of the night, a time for quiet contemplation, and its presence was a blessing. This association was so strong that the owl became the emblem of Athens itself. The city's silver coins, the tetradrachms that were a stable currency throughout the ancient world, were stamped with the image of Athena on one side and her owl on the other. These coins became known colloquially as glaucas, the Greek word for owls, and the expression "to bring owls to Athens" became a proverb for doing something utterly pointless and redundant, like carrying coals to Newcastle. The owl was a symbol of Athenian wisdom, wealth, and military prowess, a creature woven into the very fabric of their golden age. It represented insight, knowledge, and the light of reason shining in the darkness. Yet, as we cross the cultural and historical border into ancient Rome, the owl's reputation undergoes a dramatic and sinister transformation. While the Romans adopted much of Greek mythology, syncretizing Athena with their goddess Minerva, they did not inherit the Greek reverence for her bird. To the Romans, the owl was a creature of absolute terror. It was the bubo, a name that echoed its mournful call, and it was considered a harbinger of the worst possible fortune. Its nocturnal habits and ghostly silence associated it not with quiet contemplation, but with witchcraft, ghosts, and the underworld. The hoot or screech of an owl, especially heard within the city walls, was a dire omen foretelling public disaster or private death. The Roman natural historian Pliny the Elder wrote that the owl is always a bird of evil omen, and that when it appears in a city, it presages nothing but the most dreadful calamities. He recounts that the city of Rome itself once had to undergo a lustration, a complex ritual of purification, simply because an eagle owl had found its way into the capital. The death of numerous emperors, including Julius Caesar, Augustus, and Aurelius, was said to have been preceded by the cry of an owl. To the pragmatic and often superstitious Romans, the owl's strangeness was not a sign of wisdom, but a perversion of the natural order. A bird that behaved like a cat, that saw in the dark and flew without a sound, was an uncanny and unwelcome specter from the world of spirits. This deep-seated fear was not unique to Rome. It echoed through the centuries and across much of Europe. In the folklore of the Middle Ages, the owl's association with darkness made it a natural companion for witches and a creature of the devil. Its call outside a window was a death knell, a belief that persisted in rural communities for generations. In Shakespeare's plays, the owl is almost always a symbol of dread. In Macbeth, Lady Macbeth notes, "It was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman, which gives the sternest good night. The owl's cry is the soundtrack to murder and mayhem, the auditory cue for tragic events. This dark reputation traveled across the world. In many Native American traditions, the owl was associated with ghosts, its call a warning from the spirit world. In parts of Africa and the Middle East, the owl was similarly seen as a creature of ill omen, its presence bringing bad luck or signaling an impending death. Why this profound schism? Why could one culture see a feathered philosopher where another saw a winged demon? The answer lies in the human response to the unknown. The owl is a creature of the liminal, the boundary between day and night, sight and sound, the known and the unknown. For the Athenians, who celebrated logic and enlightenment, the owl's ability to see in the dark was a powerful metaphor for wisdom's ability to pierce ignorance. They chose to interpret its mysterious nature as a sign of profound knowledge. For the Romans and many other cultures, however, the night was a place of danger and uncertainty. The owl, as the master of that domain, became the embodiment of those fears. Its silence was stealthy, not peaceful. Its otherworldly calls were communications from malevolent spirits, not thoughtful hoots. Its unblinking stare was not contemplative, but predatory and menacing. The owl became a blank screen onto which humanity projected its deepest anxieties about darkness and death. It is a perfect mirror, reflecting back not the true nature of the bird, but the mindset of the culture observing it. Whether it is the wise old owl of children's fables, the emblem on a university crest, or the screeching omen in a horror story, the owl remains one of the most potent and psychologically charged creatures in our shared imagination, a silent flyer carrying the weight of our wisdom and our fears through the night sky. For millennia, the owl flew through a world defined by human belief. It was a spirit, a symbol, a messenger from gods or demons, its reality obscured by the thick veil of folklore and superstition. Its hoot was an omen, its gaze a portent. But as the shadows of the medieval world began to recede, a new kind of light dawned in Europe, the light of reason. The age of enlightenment, beginning in the 17th and surging through the 18th century, championed logic, empirical observation, and a systematic inquiry into the workings of the natural world. Humanity began to look at the owl not as a myth, but as a mechanism, not as a specter, but as a species. This was the dawn of ornithology, the moment the owl transitioned from a character in our stories to a subject of our science. This intellectual revolution did not happen overnight. It was built on the work of pioneering naturalists who dared to look at nature with fresh eyes. In the 17th century, the English naturalist Francis Willoughby, alongside his colleague John Ray, embarked on a mission to catalog the living world based on direct observation rather than ancient authority or hearsay. In their landmark 1676 work, Ornithologiae Libri Tres, they attempted the first truly systematic classification of birds based on physical characteristics. They described the owls they knew, noting their forward-facing eyes, their hooked beaks, and their nocturnal habits. They were beginning to group them based on anatomy, not allegory. They were asking not what the owl meant, but what the owl was. This was a profound shift, a move toward a biological understanding that treated the owl as a creature governed by the same natural laws as any other. The true turning point, the moment that forever changed how we organize and understand life on Earth, came with the work of one man, a Swedish botanist, physician, and zoologist named Carl Linnaeus. Linnaeus was a man obsessed with order. He looked upon the chaotic tangle of nature and saw a divine system waiting to be cataloged. He was frustrated by the babble of common names for plants and animals, which varied from village to village and language to language, making scientific communication nearly impossible. An owl called one thing in Sweden might be called something entirely different in Germany or England. In his monumental work, Systema Naturae, first published in 1735 and expanded in numerous editions, Linnaeus introduced a revolutionary solution: binomial nomenclature. The system was elegant in its simplicity. Every species would be given a unique, two-part scientific name derived from Latin or Greek. The first name, capitalized, represented the genus, a group of closely related species. The second name, in lowercase, identified the specific species. With this system, a barn owl was no longer just a screech owl or a ghost owl. It was, in the 10th edition of his work from 1758, which became the starting point for zoological nomenclature, officially designated Strix alba, the great horned owl of North America, became Bubo virginianus. Suddenly, scientists across the world could communicate with absolute clarity. The owl now had a precise, universal identity. Linnaeus placed all the owls he knew into just two genera, Strix and Bubo. While his classification was rudimentary by modern standards, it was a seismic leap forward. By grouping them based on shared physical traits, their predatory beaks, their facial discs, their nocturnal adaptations, he formally recognized the owls as a distinct, coherent group of birds. He had taken the creature of myth and pinned it to the great family tree of life, giving it a scientific address. The owl was no longer just a whisper in the dark. It was a specimen, a biological entity with a place in a rational, observable system. The work of Linnaeus was not an end, but a beginning. He had built the scaffolding, and in the centuries that followed, generations of ornithologists, naturalists, and scientists would build upon it, fleshing out our understanding of the strigiforms. Naturalists and explorers fanned out across the globe, discovering and describing dozens of new owl species, from the tiny elf owl in the Americas to the great fishing owls of Africa and Asia. Each new discovery was another piece of the puzzle, revealing the incredible diversity and adaptability of the owl family. It soon became clear that Linnaeus's simple classification was insufficient. Anatomists studying the skeletons and musculature of owls noticed a fundamental split in the order. One group, typified by the barn owl, had a distinct, heart-shaped facial disc, a longer middle talon with a comb-like serration and subtle differences in its skeletal structure. This led to the formal division of owls into the two families we recognize today: the Titanidae, the barn owls and their relatives, and the Strigidae, the typical owls that comprise all other species. The family tree was growing more detailed, its branches defined by ever finer observations. No figure better represents the blend of artistic passion and scientific observation of this era than John James Audubon. In the early 19th century, the American ornithologist traveled the length and breadth of the young nation, determined to paint and document every bird species. His magnum opus, The Birds of America, brought the continent's owls to life with unprecedented detail and dynamism. His paintings were not the static, stiff profiles of earlier scientific illustrations. Audubon depicted owls in their natural habitats, in the midst of action, a snowy owl standing watch over a desolate frozen landscape, a great horned owl clutching its prey, a pair of burrowing owls standing sentinel at their den. His accompanying texts were rich with personal observations of their behavior, diet, and calls. Audubon's work did more than just document. It popularized. It allowed the public to see owls not as terrifying omens, but as beautiful, powerful, and fascinating components of the American wilderness. The scientific gaze did not dispel the owl's mystery, but transformed it. The question was no longer, Is the owl an evil spirit? But how does the owl fly in silence? The answer, the serrated feathers, the trailing fringe, the velvety pile, was infinitely more wondrous than the superstition it replaced. The question was no longer, do its eyes hold magical wisdom? But how are its eyes and ears adapted for hunting in near total darkness? The answer, the tubular eyes packed with rods, the asymmetrical ears creating a 3D sound map, revealed a marvel of sensory biology that no myth could have imagined. Science gave us a new language for awe. It allowed us to appreciate the owl not for what we imagined it to be, but for the breathtakingly complex and exquisitely adapted creature it truly is. The journey from superstition to science was a journey from fear to understanding, from fantasy to a reality that proved to be just as, if not more, magical. Having journeyed from the mists of deep time through the intricacies of the owl's anatomy and across the landscapes of human culture and science, we arrive at today. We now understand the owl with a clarity our ancestors could never have imagined. We have sequenced its genome, analyzed its flight with high-speed cameras, and tracked its migrations with satellite transmitters. Yet, this golden age of knowledge has coincided with the owl's most perilous era, the silent hunter, which survived the extinction of the dinosaurs and adapted to dominate the night for 60 million years, now faces a gauntlet of modern threats, almost all of them created by a single diurnal species, us. The single greatest danger to owls worldwide is the simplest and most devastating: the loss of their homes. Owls are creatures of specific habitats, whether ancient forests, open grasslands, remote deserts, or marshy wetlands. As human populations expand, these habitats are being relentlessly cleared, fragmented, and degraded. Deforestation for agriculture, logging, and urban sprawl destroys the very trees owls need for nesting and roosting. The plight of the northern spotted owl in the Pacific Northwest of North America became a potent symbol of this conflict in the late 20th century. This owl depends exclusively on the complex, multi-layered canopy of old-growth coniferous forests. As these ancient forests were logged, the owl's population plummeted, sparking a bitter and protracted battle between conservationists and the timber industry. The spotted owl became a test case, forcing society to ask a difficult question. Does a species have a right to exist if it stands in the way of economic progress? This story is repeated across the globe. Grassland owls lose their hunting grounds to the plow. Desert owls lose their cacti to urban development. Wetland owls lose their marshes to drainage and pollution. As their homes shrink, owl populations become isolated in small, fragmented patches of habitat, unable to find sufficient food or new mates, their genetic viability slowly bleeding away. Even for owls that manage to survive in our modified landscapes, a more insidious threat lurks in the food chain: poison. For much of the 20th century, organochlorine pesticides like DDT were used extensively in agriculture. These chemicals did not break down easily, accumulating in the environment and in the fatty tissues of animals. For top predators like owls, this was catastrophic. The chemicals became more concentrated at each step up the food chain, a process known as biomagnification. High levels of DDT in female owls caused them to lay eggs with shells so thin they would crack under the weight of incubation. This led to reproductive failure on a massive scale and was a major factor in the decline of many raptor species. While DDT was banned in many countries starting in the 1970s, it has been replaced by a new chemical menace: second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, or SGARs. These are the powerful poisons used to control rats and mice in and around our homes, farms, and cities. Unlike older poisons, they do not kill instantly. A poisoned rodent can live for several days, moving slowly and erratically, making it an easy target for a hunting owl. When the owl consumes the rodent, it ingests the poison. The anticoagulants build up in the owl's system, preventing its blood from clotting. The bird can then die a slow, agonizing death from massive internal bleeding, sometimes triggered by a minor bruise or injury. For an owl, a creature that lives and hunts in the darkness, the world we have built is also a physical obstacle course. Collisions with vehicles are a huge source of mortality. Many owls, like barn owls and great horned owls, hunt along roadside verges, which provide open corridors with abundant rodents. As they swoop down on prey, they are often blinded by headlights and struck by cars. Power lines present another danger, both from collision and electrocution. On top of these direct threats looms the pervasive, systemic challenge of global climate change. For specialized species, the consequences can be dire. The snowy owl's life is tied to the lemming. Climate change threatens to disrupt this delicate cyclical balance in the Arctic. Warmer winters may reduce the snowpack that great gray owls need for their unique style of hunting. Changing temperature and rainfall patterns can shift entire ecosystems faster than many owl species can adapt or relocate. The owl, a creature so perfectly tuned to its environment, is now facing an environment that is changing at an unprecedented rate. Yet, the story of the owl in the modern world is not solely one of doom. Just as our species is the source of these threats, we are also the source of hope. Our scientific understanding has given us the tools for conservation, and a growing public awareness has fostered the will to act. Around the world, a dedicated movement of scientists, rehabilitators, and citizen conservationists is working to secure a future for these magnificent birds. Legal protections, such as the Migratory Bird Treaty Act in the United States and international conventions like CITES, have made it illegal to hunt, harm, or trade owls, giving them a vital shield against direct persecution. Conservation organizations work tirelessly to protect and restore critical habitats, purchasing land, reforesting cleared areas, and fighting for responsible land use policies. An essential role is played by wildlife rehabilitation centers. These facilities are the emergency rooms of the avian world, where dedicated staff and volunteers rescue and treat thousands of owls each year that have been hit by cars, poisoned, or orphaned. They mend broken wings, nurse the sick back to health, and, whenever possible, release these birds back into the wild, giving them a second chance at life. Perhaps the most powerful tool for conservation, however, is partnership. The story of the barn owl is a particularly hopeful example. As traditional wooden barns disappeared from the landscape, these owls lost their preferred nesting sites. But conservationists and farmers discovered that by erecting simple nest boxes in the right locations, they could entice the owls back. This has become a widespread success story. Farmers benefit from free, natural pest control, and the owls are given a safe place to raise their young. It is a simple, elegant solution that turns a potential conflict into a collaboration, reminding us that the health of our environment and the health of our own enterprises can be linked. The future of the owl is now inextricably bound to our own choices. They are vital bioindicators. The presence of a healthy, diverse owl population is a sign of a healthy, functioning ecosystem. Their decline is a warning, a silent hoot in the night, telling us that the systems that support them, and ultimately us, are in trouble. The owl, which for so long was seen as a messenger of our personal fate, has now become a messenger for the fate of the planet. Whether we heed its call is up to us. Our story of the owl began in the deep past, in a world recovering from apocalypse, where the first of their kind took to the wing. We have witnessed the meticulous evolutionary sculpting of a perfect predator, a master of stealth and sensory perception. We have journeyed across the globe, marveling at the rich tapestry of species, from the Arctic's snowy nomad to the desert's tiny elf. We have delved into the human soul, seeing how this one creature could be exalted as a symbol of wisdom and reviled as an omen of death. We watched as the light of science stripped away the superstitions, revealing a biological truth far more wondrous than any myth. And finally, we have arrived in our present moment, where the future of this ancient and magnificent lineage rests precariously in our hands. The owl remains a creature of the night, a guardian of the twilight hours, its story a powerful reminder of nature's ingenuity, the depth of our own imagination, and the profound responsibility we bear as stewards of the wild.